Welcome back to the Barley Lads. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Today, we're drinking Old Forester 1910. This is Old Forester 1910 Old Fine Whiskey. It's a Kentucky Straight Bourbon from the Brown-Forman Distillery, Shively, Kentucky. 46.5% or 93 proof. This is a non-age statement with a minimum of 4 years before a second barreling for 6 to 9 months. Price-wise should be around $50. Mash bill, 72% corn, 18% rye, 10% malted barley. So Old Forester 1910, this is part of the Whiskey Row series where there are 4 different whiskeys with a different year in the title. But Old Forester has been around since 1870, and it was founded by George Gervin Brown, which, as many of you might know, is part of the Brown-Forman family that now owns not only Old Forester, but also multiple different Scotch distilleries, as well as Jack Daniel's, which is one of the, if not the largest producer of whiskeys in the United States. The 1910 of the Whiskey Row actually comes back to in 1910 they had kind of a catastrophe in their distillery. One of their bottling lines caught fire, and so they had obviously a huge issue putting out a fire in a distillery in 1910. I'm sure they had some struggle with that, but also they had already dumped quite a bit of whiskey that needed to be bottled, and so that was just sitting there, and they didn't have a bottling line to do anything with it, so they had to re-barrel it. So this was actually the first double oaked whiskey or bourbon that was ever on the market, and they called it Very Old Fine Whiskey, and so that's where the 1910 Old Fine Whiskey name comes from. So also in this series is 1870, which is kind of a representation of their original whiskey that they released, which was a blend of bourbons that they produced at that time. He was also, I think, a grocer, and so he had whiskeys that he would blend, and he was also the first bottler that ever existed, where he actually put his stamp of approval and wax sealed it so there couldn't be any tampering with it. Beyond that, there's the 1897, which is a bottled and bond. 1897 was the Bottled and Bond Act year, and that is when the government said you have to have these in bonded warehouses, you can't be cutting it with other things, and so that's when he bought a distillery to produce his own stuff. 1910, and then there's 1920, which refers to the Prohibition period. So 1920, they were actually one of the few distilleries to remain open throughout Prohibition as a licensed distiller of medicinal bourbon or medicinal whiskey. So this is an incredibly rich whiskey. This is not the first double oaked whiskey that we've tried on this channel. We've had the Woodford Reserve, and it has a similar, but certainly not the same, heavy oak on the nose smell, which you would expect to get from something that has been aged in 2 brand new oak barrels. But beyond that, there is very rich vanilla, slightly peppery, but again at 93 proof, it is a very drinkable entry proof. A lot of cherry on the taste. Not as oaky on the nose as on the taste, which is good because it's almost over oaked on the nose. But you don't get that on the taste. Very sweet. It's like if you browned cherries and just brown sugar, just coated it in a pan. That's what this tastes like. Medium finish, still dry and oaky. That kind of sticks with you, but a really nice vanilla finish as well. That vanilla sits with you. The cherry, as strong as it is on the taste, doesn't really stick with you. Yeah. Excellent whiskey though. Great for the price. Just a good entry into Old Forester if you've never had it. Old Forester 86, their entry level, like base level bourbon, is fine. This is exquisite. I highly recommend this bottle. So thanks again for watching another episode of the Barley Lads. Today has been Old Forester 1910. Thanks for watching.